The Essential Question. Here with me now, Democratic Congressman Peter Welch of Vermont and Republican Congressman Charles Boustany of Louisiana. Thank you both for joining me. Congressman Boustany, you were in there, so let me start with you. What did you hear today that made you think, okay, now I know why I was against it? And what did you hear today thinking, well, you know what, maybe it's more constitutional than I thought?
The most striking thing I heard was from Justice Kennedy when he said there's a high burden of authorization under the Constitution if you're going to change the relationship between the state and the individual. And that struck me as a pretty strong statement, you know, because everybody's considering Justice Kennedy as the swing vote on the court. So we'll see how he ends up ruling on this, but it really struck me that was a powerful statement in the direction of saying that this is not constitutional.
Congressman Welch, answer that question. So here you have Justice Kennedy, put it out there. You got a high burden of proof on this. So you're a member of Congress. You voted for it. Let me hear your answer.
The Supreme Court has varied in its interpretation of things over the course of the century. So this is going to be a 5-4 decision, most of us think. But bottom line, from a congressional standpoint, the question for America is this: are we going to have a health care system that includes all Americans? If we are we going to pay for it? If everybody's going to be covered, everyone has to pay. And I think Justice Ginsburg got it straight. You can do it with a mandate, which kind of puts a little pressure on people to get in, or you can do it with a tax. And there can be a constitutional difference, but the practical concern for the country has to be affordable and accessible health care for everyone. And this is the first time we've had a bill on the floor that allows it to happen.
Congressman Boustany, I want you to answer a question. You to answer a question from a justice, essentially. I'm going to play a piece of sound from Justice Breyer about what he believes is the power of Congress on this question. Here's what he said.
And I think if we look back into history, we see sometimes Congress can create commerce out of nothing. That's the National Bank, which was created out of nothing to create other commerce out of nothing.
Congressman Boustany, obviously we know Justice Breyer seems to be sympathetic with the government's case here, but that is a fact.
Well, that is a fact in a sense that Congress has created commerce, but at the same time, with regard to the specific example of the bank, it was also pointed out that Congress could not compel every single American to put deposits into that bank. So it's not quite the same analogy. But I want to get back to a point Peter made earlier, and that is if everybody's in, then we'll be able to afford the system will be more affordable. Here's the problem with that. We have everybody in Medicare right now, and yet the cost of Medicare is soaring, and we can't afford that program as it is. And that's a set internal market in a sense, but we can't afford it. So we have other things we need to do in health care. More transparency, more competition, more efficient delivery of care. Those are things that are critically important.
Do you want to go
well, Charlie's right about that. I mean, however we finance health care, unless we have the cost of it be sustainable, instead of going up 2 and 3 times the rate of inflation, profits, and growth, it's not going to be sustainable. And one of my frustrations is that we're still having this fight about whether we're going to have health care instead of having the common effort of trying to figure out how to make it affordable and sustainable, however you pay for it.
Let me ask the basic question here to you. Healthcare coverage, right or privilege?
Healthcare is a personal responsibility. I know that as a physician. I can be responsible for my health care. I don't think anybody else really can be. Now, medical care is something different. And there were interesting arguments in the court today about what should be covered, how do you address this problem of catastrophic care for the young or old, for that matter. How do you deal with the 40 million who are uninsured? We could tailor solutions without doing this entire revamp of the system.
But right or privilege, I mean, you know.
It's a right, but the question, profound as it is also somewhat academic, because in Vermont, and I'm sure in Louisiana, you show up at the hospital, you show up to a doctor's office,
state in the union,
you're going to get health care. So as a practical matter, whether it's a right or privilege, the person who gets sick goes to a doctor, goes to a hospital, and gets it, and the taxpayer picks up the tab. One of the challenges we have right now is that in your premium, about $1,000 of it is to pay for uncompensated care. So we've got this, as a practical matter, system where everybody gets it. And in this country, we're paying twice as much for health care as most of the industrialized nation, and we still have 45, 50 million people uninsured. So it's not working.
All right, I got to leave it there, but Congressman Boustany of Louisiana, Congressman Welch of Vermont, thank you for a great discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, stay with us. Much more on the Supreme Court, plus some other stuff coming up ahead.